everyone to the April meeting of DPNR. Apologies, I have one from Neville, and that's everyone else here. I'll move from the chair. We accept his apology. Jason seconds. All those in favour? Any conflicts of interest? Shouldn't be. 3.1 confirmation of minutes. Someone like to move? One of those. We've got the hand up first, Kay. Any discussion as to accuracy? No, all that. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Matters arising from. I think I've got a couple there. If I can find them, give me 10 seconds. Brent, we talked about last time around lack of flags. And any progress on you were going to investigate the status of the flags?
No.
No? Okay.
I'll get an update for next time.
Cool. And something else, I think it was Jason, where are we? Oh, there it is. What is it? Oh yeah, 7.2 on page 8 in Diligent. Compliance teams dealing with an increased number of OIAs. Are we progressing, or Dan might know the answer to this, are we progressing anywhere with charging for OIAs?
Probably best for the Chief Executive to address that.
We do in the Official Information Act, so we're charging for significant amounts where it's requested. But the simple requests are done without charge. So there's assessment done if it's over the, I think it's over the amount of 3/4 of an hour to an hour, it's charged for. They go back to the person that's requested the official information and ask them to whether they want to pay for it or reduce the request. If they reduce the request, then we carry on with the request and provide it.
Thank you. Okay, it's all good. Moving on, 3.3, notes of the workshop from February. I'll move from the chair that we receive those circulated notes. Seconder, Jason. All those in favour, say aye. Against, carried. And the same with 3.4, same again. I'll move. Jason seconds. Any further discussion? Nope. All those in favour, aye. Thank you. No deputations. We're up to the reports. Heike and Shane, come forward. Heike, come forward.
Shane was going to join us online. Teams? Yes.
Yep.
Just a quick one. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our report today seeks that the committee approves the introduction of P120 time restriction to the soon to be formed new public parking supply that will be formed at 11 Blake Street across the road here. That also then includes, in addition, one mobility park and a loading zone, and also seeking your approval to update the parking schedule to reflect those. This all follows the Rangiora Ashley Community Board approving the Rangiora North of High Street Laneway concept plan back in December, and then Council subsequently approving utilising budget to implement it in February this year. So the formation of 16 new general parks, one loading zone and one mobility park is one of the project components as part of that concept plan. It will nicely be a continuation of the existing P120 parking supply at 11 Blake Street, and we have engaged with various adjacent landowners during the development of that concept plan. Happy to take any questions.
Dan.
Thanks, Heike, for the report. Just on the broader strategy for the Blake Street car park, including the existing, when's that likely to be further considered? I was just trying to see if I could identify that in the report. I might have missed it.
Yeah, good question. There's a couple of strands to consider as part of that. So Council will be aware that we have intentions to have a wider redevelopment. There is a concept plan that in fact sits in the district plan. There was some there is some budget that the long-term plan has pushed beyond the next 10-year period for the consideration of a construction of a parking building. Meanwhile, we've initiated a new project to create a parking plan. That's an implementation project that's dropped out of the integrated transport strategy. So as part of that, we will re-look at all of our demand, supply, and thinking about appropriate intervention tools as well as any infrastructure requirements. And that will become a document that's quite instructional in terms of what council needs to do to get to a preferred scenario. So there'll be quite significant engagement throughout this year that will come to the community board and the council with. So, but meanwhile, we have identified an opportunity to look at a reconsideration plan of the current at-grade parking area at Blake Street, and there is some money in the long-term plan budgets to do that. So it's a little bit of wait to see what the parking plan starts to stipulate, but I very much anticipate that might be one of the actions that pops out of that.
Because the minibus trust, you might be aware, and I think our own community vehicle are parked in that where the old printing works building is. So obviously if there's any information there, it's good to make sure that they're considered. The north of High, we're also looking at a strategy for the farmers' locality in Tuiaisha. Is that included in those works?
So there's another project just kicking off that's looking at a South of High master plan. So we've literally got an inception meeting coming up, and again we'll be planning some elected member workshops as part of it. But that's certainly looking at that South of High block and how it ties in, and certainly parking will very much be an assumption going into that in terms of the current supply there.
Exactly.
Great.
Thanks, Heike, for your report. In terms of the parking for the staff, as I see High Street is gaining more and more popularity in terms of the numbers of businesses. Are you getting any pushback from the local residents where the staff are actually having to park further and further away and blocking up the other streets around this area?
At the top of my head, not to my knowledge from necessarily residents, it is often a topic that comes up from time to time, sort of us needing to consider all-day parking in the town centre, and that's certainly one of the things we will have within the scope of the parking plan, because that will need to re-look at all of our restrictions. We've sort of followed a logic of the tighter restrictions right in the town centre core and then radiating out to unrestricted. We will no doubt, as part of that parking plan project, reconsider all of the boundaries of all of that. And council will be aware there was some money set aside in the budget to look at some land acquisition to potentially look at all-day parking over at Keir Street. That's got a few other interdependencies around things like railway crossings and things. So, yeah.
Okay.
But certainly a topic that comes up from time to time that will be considered as part of the parking plan.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, probably similar question to my colleague here, but do we have figures which show the total number of provisions in around your town centre for 120 parking? Is that going more or less over time? And so if it's increasing, does that feed into our projections for what we require for a car parking building or otherwise?
Yes, very much so. We undertake a 2-yearly parking survey that every time completes a stock take of all of our on-street, public off-street, private off-street provision, and then also by restriction. And it measures occupancy, and it also measures things like duration of stay. So we've got the data to be able to say the highest proportion of town centre users actually use a car park for only up to half an hour. So it very much supports the concept of having the town centre core at a lower restriction and then radiating out. But yeah, we do have that data. I'm more than happy to share, but all of that will be evidence going into the parking plan.
This was something just do we also do we have attitudinal studies about people's sort of tolerance or willingness to say to walk more than 30 seconds or 2 minutes, and is this changing over time? Are people's expectations changing with any working longer?
That's the $1 million question, because that really ties into that travel behaviour change. You might recall that was very much one of the topics, and in fact one of the key moves out of the recent integrated transport strategy. It is something that will take some time. We're currently debating with the parking plan, and we're yet to confirm, but we're constructing a comms plan for that. whether early engagement might be a good tool to use, which we sometimes do for strategy type projects and sometimes we don't. We have a lot of existing information around attitudes to parking in terms of what we might have had through submissions to related strategies, but whether there's an opportunity to go out with a survey early on that tries to socialise that change may be coming and trying to understand what some of the trade-offs that people might have an appetite for is something that we might look at.
Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just following on from Tim's question, with regards to the occupancy percentages when we do the surveys, specifically for this question, did we actually rank 11 Blake Street in terms of across the day, and on a wider kind of scope, do we actually consider private parks in those surveys, or do we target them to council-owned parks?
The 2 yearly survey we undertake do consider off-street private supply. So good point, whether we have specific information for 11 Blake Street, probably not, because it's kind of being used ad hoc at the moment for all-day parking. There's no lease agreements in place or anything like that, so we probably don't have specific information for that, but we certainly have occupancy across all of the various council and otherwise supplies. And that Blake Street at peak time, that Blake Street car park is among the higher ones. Certainly the Ashley Street public car park is among the highest occupancy rate, with sitting at over 80% or so during that peak time, as does the Percival Street one.
Thank you.
Happy to share that around again if it's of interest, but certainly this is the type of data that we'll come back to you with when we do the workshop, various engagement opportunities for the parking plan.
Thank you. Anyone else? Phil, you right? Is everyone happy? I got a couple of comments before we put the report. Haki, on page 21, these under 6.2, the sustainability and climate change impacts, it said the recommendations do not have any direct sustainability impacts. Can I suggest that anything that we do that involves concrete or bitumen does have a sustainability and climate impact, and we're trying to get a mindset going to bring this stuff into when we determined, was it last year, to bring these things into reports. Concrete and bitumen, well, I don't know about bitumen specifically, but concrete rates right behind diesel as up there as a carbon footprint negative, if you want to use that term. I just think you shouldn't be saying that there are no implications. We're not going to die in a ditch over it, but I think it should be reworded something like this with concrete or bitumen and in a roading or a car park, to say that there are, I don't know how you word it, there are minor impacts or something to that effect. Is that a reasonable?
Yeah, that's absolutely
suggestion?
I know Shane's online, so he can take note of that when he comes back with various parking or other way. Just a quick side note, we are constructing this to be, for the time being, until we know what we're doing across the whole of the supply, as a temporary, let's call it, car park, similar to 132 Percival Street, where we're filling with gravel type rather than concreting it.
Before it gets sealed, yeah, thank you.
Rather than sealing.
And my other comment, which is only, it's not particularly relevant, but just while you're all here and looking at a map of Blake Street, and I find it on page 18, at Waipat the other day, the matter was raised, building number 3, Blake Street, which is whatever it is it Lawyers, in the L shape of the building there, you can see it on the aerial shot, is a row of wheelie bins, rubbish bins, and they've got a wee low fence around them, and there is a mural on that wall behind them. And Waipat asked if, in the interest of being able to see the mural, which is quite an attractive mural, they could be removed. And I ran it past Grant McLeod, and he said basically no, because where the hell are you going to put them? But I just make the point that if possible, any time we're doing any alterations, if those rubbish bins and the metre-high fence in front of them in that L shape could be relocated, that would Waipat would be very pleased. Just put that somewhere in the record. Thank you. Okay, so let's we have recommendations A to E. Someone like to move? Dan moves, and Jason seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to acknowledge the timeliness of this coming forward, particularly as the new building which appears to be 190 if I've got that correct, is looking really good actually, and you can start to see the benefits of that decision we made either late last year, earlier this year, around having that activated, that area through there. I was concerned about at the time about the width. It appears that width is adequate for what's required. There's a general excitement in the town around the shape of that building, and it looks the work that's been done to date, including the effort that's gone into the different grades of colour in the tilt slabs. It's going to look very appealing and be another really good addition to the town. So having the car parking completed behind makes sense, as is the obviously getting a plan together for the better utilisation of that land. The building Mr Chair was referring to before, number 3, I think that's the old print works, owned by the Clayton family, as I recall. And so my understanding is you will occupy that presently, but in the longer term, whether that building remains is a moot point, but the holistic development of this, plus behind an understanding and master plan for the farmers, Toyota, and assembled other owners, Bunnings, is really important. And to see that that's linked. I constantly get really good feedback from people that come out here that shop, enjoy the experience. So ensuring that we have a car parking that's well utilised and understood is important to that. I'm really pleased that we've got the ability to change the P60s or P120s, I think they are, along P60s along High Street, because we've had a number of businesses indicate that they're having issues there in the weekends. So it's good that we did have the capability to make that happen. So it kind of is the whole picture. So I'm pleased you're doing the work that connects to all of that, and we'll bring this to reality. It's now it's when that new building's complete there, that's apart from at the end of the town with the old BNZ site, that's one of the last projects to be completed. So really, really good to see, and looking forward to its completion. Thank you for the work.
Thank you. Jason?
I don't think I really have much to this yet, but echoing his comments, I'm really looking forward to seeing what can be done with this section of the township, and it would be good to see some formalisation and what I walk past and wonder what it could be, kind of a forgotten bit of land behind everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got Shane with us?
I think Shane's trying to join.
Is he trying to join? Just see if he's got anything to add.
He said no one's joining.
He's been in and out 3 times.
I see.
This the Shane. This the Shane.
Shows that the Teams meeting started online.
Yeah. There he is. Very well. There he is. There he was.
He's gone.
I'm happy to take any questions to him
Yeah,
and
of course.
come back to you if there's any.
Yes.
It's like a rainbow crossing. Deal we mention it.
Take it black.
We'll ask the manager and the chair about implementation.
There we go. Hello. You there, Shane?
Just calling him.
No. Yes. You're muted.
Or are you guys still? running through the meeting. It's been struggling to hear anything through.
Okay, have you got anything you want to say on the Black Street car park item?
No.
No.
Presuming Heike had already presented it, so I didn't have anything additional to add. So more to any questions.
Sure, might just ask.
Cool. Okay, thank you. You hang on. Stay there.
Shane, could I just ask a question? Recently we met with a lady in the New World car park with concerns around the safety aspects of the blocks that are put in place to prevent people from going onto the car parks in the New World parks. It's in that area, but it does occur in other parks. If we, around the safety aspect of that, because there's a number of elderly individuals which it's a trip hazard to, if we looked into that, and what did you, if you did, what was the result?
So you're talking about their black rubber curb stops that are on the west end of the Ashley Street car park next to New World. And I believe those are, we've looked into those. There have been a number of conversations in the past, and the long-term fix is going to be an expensive reconfiguration of the car park. They're there effectively to keep cars from overlapping onto the footpath, and in that case then you wouldn't have space for somebody in a wheelchair or a walker to actually get by the cars. The discussions that we had on site with the New World manager and with the resident you're talking about seem to be a little bit around potentially age demographics and also potentially not paying attention. So we have, I think there's been some conversation on trying to make them a little bit more conspicuous. They were, I believe, either replaced or retaped with reflective yellow tape in the recent past. But until we are in a spot where we're looking at a major reconfiguration of the car park, we're probably not able to remove them. Unfortunately, we're going to sort of have to deal with them as they are.
So the issue was that they become a hazard, and there's a number of people hurting themselves on them. That was the issue that was raised. So I wonder, given that, might be worthy of further consideration in a report or certainly a workshop item in due course. Given that that issue was raised, I don't think we can, I'm not saying you are, but I don't think we can ignore that as being an issue, and it's something we need to, I think, come back with what options there might be, and if you don't consider it an issue, it might be what you conclude, but I think it would be worthy of further consideration, because I certainly don't want a complaint coming by that we've been advised of this and we haven't got a plan for it or a response.
Yeah, that's fair. And again, we have been trying to work on their conspicuity so that they do stand out a little bit more. And I think, yeah, we can go back. Unfortunately, any improvements beyond that are probably going to be looking at pretty high price tags, just having to reconfigure the walkway there. But yeah, well, we can continue diving into that further.
Thank you, Shane. Right, a reply. Dan, you covered that. All good. Okay, I'll put those A to whatever it is, E, as listed. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Item 6, no correspondence. Item 7, portfolio updates. Tim's first with district planning.
Right, my update is focused on development planning.
Thanks, Mikey.
Here in Streams 8, that's subdivision in industrial and designations were completed on Monday, April the 15th. And submitters that attended include some of the submitters who are consents that crossed over the notification of the operative and proposed plan. Got some dates for remaining hearings, which are rezonings across the 5 substreams. And yeah, you've got all the dates, and it's in the reports. Oxford Commercial Pegasus first up, in rural rezonings, followed by rural residential, and Wollaston industrial, which is the first week of July, members may be interested. Residential zonings to conclude in the last couple of weeks of July. Our last hearings are Stream 7, NDRS and Ecosystems and Indigenous Biodiversity. There's a plan to end on the 23rd of August. the program, the feedback I've received is the program is generally on track, but the Commissioners, Council and submitters have had to respond to quite a number of changes through the hearings program, which will need to be worked through before the hearings panel make their recommendations to Council. And just one observation there, both in my Council Ward role, in the portfolio holder here, I've had a few queries as to what was the Council's position on PC31 in relation to how does that differ where we're at with the district land hearing process. I just had to clarify that for where we stand, given the information I'm able to provide. Perhaps through Mr. Chair, can I ask whether we have sort of intention to go out to the wider Haka community and sort of provide any public information if we're able to about where we're at. Just for clarity, so I'll get some residents saying, where we're at,
Yeah, Jeff, that might be for you.
yeah. We've got two sort of processes in different stages, haven't we?
Just explain that again, please.
Oh, well, a resident, for instance, who was familiar with the BC31 process and had sort of got the sense that things were sort of in a stasis, but then had sort of heard that there was another district plan hearing process coming up, and so he wanted to know has the other one been put on hold, where we're at? Yeah,
No,
those are the basic questions.
So there's a request going through at the moment to defer PC31 review to after the proposed district plan's been moved, and that's going through a process at the moment through the referral to the judge to make a decision on it.
So that's
Is that available for public?
Can communicate anything to residents if there's a response that I can relay to people accurately?
You probably relay that at the moment, but we don't have any decision at the moment, so it's probably just premature to make a statement to the public yet.
Yeah, that's all good.
You're done, Tim?
Yep.
Thank you. Jason, CD and regs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start off with CD. Recently we held a Ruwhenua workshop for an AFH situation in council. This was an opportunity for the regional civil defence team to pretty much come in and ask a few tough questions of our staff. It sounds like some of our side put a few questions to the regional team, testing some of their assumptions, which seems like a relatively sizable earthquake with minimal damage. So the regional team took back a wee bit of feedback there. The Ruwhenua exercise is part of a bigger exercise, which is going to culminate in about June or July, where the regional teams are going to be feeding into Wellington, requesting various, it's going to be an exercise where there's going to be various national emergencies declared, and they're going to test Wellington, its response into how it's going to manage distributing aid to the regions. There was also a volunteer exercise held, and it was Dean's the new team member, his first exercise with the volunteers for a flooding scenario. There were a few key learnings. There were a few low number turnout, but high in spirit from our volunteers. And apparently low tide is not a great time to test out a portable pump. So there was some mud involved. And WDC was able to send a wee bit of support over the coast with the recent rain. And our team member brought back that there was a shining example of how the community can solve the community problems, which is just testaments towards the hub concept and what we're trying to enable our local communities to do. Regulation, I'm nervous on this one because Warren's here. Building units tracking well. It's currently processing quicker than previous years, average consistently achieving 75% consents under 15 days target since November. The team's working through feedback on building consents review due the 7th of August. Some areas in feedback covering such as competition, self-certification and product substitution. And the environmental services team has an unintended benefit of in-housing food safety with an increased level of service that we can provide to our customers, I suppose you could say, where they'll have some questions when they're setting up shop for a food manufacturer, and we can pass them along in the house to provide them some advice from the food compliance section. And the team's catching up over some work left from the contractor, and the team is continuing the good work, focusing mainly on education and solution approaches in all that they do as first port of call.
Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, Brent.
Thanks, Jason. In terms of the volunteer training, is there a possibility that next time we can actually have our councillors and also community board members advised of the training exercise? And the reason I ask is that we noticed on our cameras outside of our house that points down the road that there were some real issues because they put in a road closure. We didn't know about it. And there were people getting out of their cars and there was arguing and all sorts of stuff. We thought there was a real problem, but we realised it was a training exercise. But yeah, we're going to be advised next time. Thanks.
Yeah, so work's being done on that to iron out the communication plan. There was a communication plan, but one of the wheels fell off in motion, so I wasn't actually advised of it either. So.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun.
The team's working on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just note with interesting point about AFAs and community hubs in action. Say we go over and support the West Coasters, for instance. What can we bring back, do you think, sort of, in terms of learning from their resilience and the way they operate? I mean, because they are the ultimate sort of thing, having to be out there on their own and managing. Do we have a sort of two-way relationship that we can learn from them?
Yeah, so just talking to Brennan this morning, funnily enough, he's going to tee up a trip over with Dean to talk to their civil defence team and see if they can steal some of the gold nuggets over on the coast to bring back and start facilitating that community resilience, which we really want over here as well.
Okay, Brent, Town Centre's promotion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've already sent you all a copy of my the portfolio update, but I'll just cover just a couple of bits and pieces, and that's the trading hours. I was asked by a few people to ask what we could do as a council with regard to reviewing the bylaw, and that was last done in 2017, and then staff started the process of looking at running a briefing for councillors, but then there was a private members bill that kicked in, and we're effectively now just leaving it on the table and waiting for the government to come in with a decision. I've already sent you a copy of the amendment bill so as you can have some bedtime reading. In terms of the events, the working group at the moment is compiling a list of all the events district-wide to establish as to their importance and the sheer numbers and who's actually organising what. And then that way it will give us an opportunity to sort of rank them as to which is important and potentially future funding by councillors and that sort of thing, but all those decisions will have to be made in council. The interesting thing is that I'm finding, like this weekend, we've got Back to Basics in Rangiora, we've got Growing Garden for Birds in Wood End, and then we've got the River Song event on the banks of the Kaiapoi River. And then last weekend, of course, we had Hiria Reserve planting. We're becoming a district of a lot of eco-tourism or biodiversity type projects or learning. So looking forward in terms of promotions, this could be the district for lots of people coming to learn about biodiversity and as I said, eco-tourism. If there's any other questions from my report, I'm happy to answer them. But also watch My Kitchen Rules. You'll be able to watch Lee and Luke, who are currently on that program. They cooked for the rest of the competitors last week on Tuesday, or Wednesday, it was Wednesday, I think. And they're currently leading the competition. But it was really lovely to actually see the highlights on the program of Kaiapoi, the swing bridge and out the gate cafe and that sort of stuff. So good news coming out of Kaiapoi. And the final thing is, and it probably doesn't really relate to promotions, town centre and planning, but talking to Gabby at KCS, she has 280 regular clients, but 33 of those are transient. So they actually live in their vehicles, and that's just in Kaiapoi alone. So it's really quite remarkable as to how many people live in cars in just Kaiapoi alone. Any questions on that answer? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All good?
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Moving on. Item 8, I have no questions, I have no urgent general business. Item 10, we need to go into public excluded. I'll move we go into public excluded. Seconded, Reid. All those in favour say aye. And item 10 is just confirmation of the public excluded minutes from February. I'll move from the chair that we confirm them as a true and correct record. Seconded by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. That's that. I'll move we resume in open meeting. Seconded by Tim. All those in favour? We're back in open meeting, and that is it. The next meeting is 28th of May, and I will close the meeting at 1:36. Thank you.
Escape that one last line.
Everyone talks about the unofficial